Canada exists as we know it today because of colonization. While we work to disrupt colonial and oppression-rooted practice in the work we feel called to do at Mending the Chasm, we also acknowledge our presence as uninvited guests on Brant Tract Treaty territory known as the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabeg, the Huron-Wendat, the Attawandaron or Neutral, and many other Indigenous communities who have stewarded this land since time immemorial. We also acknowledge the harm of colonization that resilient people of the global diaspora have experienced, including displacement, land theft, enslavement, violence, genocide, and cultural appropriation. Our aim is to work in solidarity with fellow community members to heal from the harm of colonization and to reclaim the joy, the inclusion, well-being, and liberation that is every human's birthright. Hello, and welcome to Mending Chasms, Building Bridges in Community. I'm your host, Leena Sharma Seth. So as you know, my viewers, Mending Chasms is a space for conversations about belonging, especially what happens when belonging can feel conditional, performative, or extracted at the cost of our bodies and our truth. We sit with the question, what does it mean to choose alignment, sovereignty, and integrity in systems that reward silence and endurance? My guest today is Celina Caesar-Chavannes. She is a neuroscientist, an author, an entrepreneur, and a leadership strategist whose work sits at the intersections of leadership, identity, and truth-telling. Through storytelling and phenomenological research, Celina explores how Black women navigate misalignment and reclaim sovereignty inside systems that were never built for their wholeness. Welcome, Celina.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Leena. It's a pleasure to be here with you and all of your viewers.
Thank you. So glad to finally get to have this conversation. I think you've been on my list of folks I'd love to interview for a while. So
check that off. We're ready.
Yes. And so I know I kind of said a little bit about you in my intro, but I always like to invite guests to introduce themselves in their own words. So let us know who you are in your own words.
So as you mentioned, I'm Celina Caesar-Chavannes. And, I've been very nervous about calling myself a neuroscientist because so many people know me as a former politician. But I've always been in the neuroscience space, always studying the brain, always understanding it from a dementia perspective or Alzheimer's or epilepsy, epidemiology, understanding the brain. And so now I'm standing in that space of claiming myself as a neuroscientist as I do my PhD in neuroscience and really understanding what I wanted to was understand, over the years, how my brain has impeded my decision making, my actions, how it has enhanced my decision making or inaction. But I think more importantly, what I've learned is that my brain always works as it should. And so that has been just the joy of being at this chapter of my life where I'm able to have fun while also learning about the thing that has been the underlying sort of foundation of my life for as long as I can remember. And that is this little thing right here, the brain.
Love it. I almost wish we could zoom in, but I see it from here. And I love that piece that it's a hard pill to swallow, that the brain is always working as it should.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm like, it's a mistake. No, the brain's doing what it should.
No.
Yeah. And so what I feel like this whole topic of, bringing ourselves to work, bringing our whole selves to work, we all talk about that. Yet it still feels, I'm going to say constrained, because I'm one who really doesn't demonize people's choice to wear a mask. Because we bodies like ours, right? Not made I should not made for the systems aren't made for our wholeness, and we survive sometimes by having masks. But when we talk about bringing our whole selves to work, what conditions, in your view, actually make authenticity possible and not performative?
Oh my goodness. There's some amazing work done by Laura Morgan Roberts. And she's a researcher, and she talks about the four freedoms that we could have in workspaces. But I think these four freedoms also apply to our homes, our communities, any spaces that we occupy. And that's the freedom to be, the freedom to become, the freedom to fade, and the freedom to fail. And if the spaces that you occupy don't allow you the opportunity to just be who you are, to show up as 100%, or to become something, I want to become a leader, a neuroscientist, a mom, a whatever the case may be, if it doesn't allow you to become, if it doesn't allow you to say, you know what, I'm not feeling well today, my mental health isn't well, I need to fade. I need to take a step back. I don't want to be performing today. And if it doesn't allow you to say, I want to be innovative, I want to take chances, I want to take risks, I want to try to fail and fail fast and fail often. If it doesn't allow for that, then how can that space allow for authenticity? How can it allow for you to show up as your 100% self? You're always going to leave a little bit behind because you are in fear of something, whatever that fear is. Your fear that somebody will not appreciate what you want to become because it sounds so weird and novel. It sounds like not good enough. Even when I open by saying, I don't often call myself a neuroscientist because people see me a certain way. So I have a fear of how they're going to interpret me as, oh, who does she think she is? So you leave little parts of yourself behind. And so I think Laura Morgan Roberts' work around the four freedoms really gives you a contextual visualization of what it is to show up as your authentic self. And that is to just be free.
Mm, I love that. I hadn't heard the four freedoms, and that
Yeah.
really, I felt such resonance as you were offering that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and thinking specifically about what I know about your journey, and what maybe many viewers out there do know, but like after experiences of harm or disillusionment, the notion of repair can feel elusive. What
Mhm.
has repair meant for you personally, and what does it require systemically? And I say that because I know, like, I'm talking to you now, and you're a neuroscientist, and I embrace that for you. And I get so many like goosebumps just knowing that. But as you think about kind of the journey you've been on, and thinking about
Yeah.
repair, what has that meant for you? And again, what do you think it requires?
So you have to remember that sometimes we're in systems of chronic harm. And so when you're in systems of chronic harm, what your brain actually does is says, oh, we're seeing this particular space. We know harm is here, so we're going to protect ourselves. So if you want to raise your hand and say, I want to become, or I want to be innovative, or I want to do something, your brain's going to say, sis. Mm-mm. Remember the last time you tried to do that, you put your hand up. They slapped your hand down or they shut you out. So your brain is going to do what is efficient for you, even if it's harmful for you. So you want to put your hand up and say, I want to do something, but your brain says, no, 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 let's not do that. Let's stay safe. And it'll make you doubt the innovation that you have. So harm is not just harm in terms of the first sort of slap on the hand that you got for bringing up a good idea. Then you have this additional chronic harm of your brain saying, I'm going to hold you back. I'm going to put in self-doubt. I'm going to put in imposter syndrome. I'm going to put in all of these things that say you're not good enough because the world has told you you're not good enough. And by staying silent, by being small, by sort of contorting yourself, you keep yourself safe. And so when we think about harm, we have to think about harm not just as somebody does something to us, but how we inadvertently perpetuate that harm through our existing actions. And so when we talk about repair, oftentimes I have to say to people that we need to rename some of the things that we say about ourselves. I have imposter syndrome. No, you don't have imposter syndrome. You have a chief risk mitigation strategist that lives in your head, right? That's a different, it's the same coin, just a different side. One is imposter syndrome and one is a chief risk mitigation strategist. And your chief risk mitigation strategist will say, Celina, remember that time when you wanted to do something there and you got in trouble for it or you got, burned for it. Let's not do that. And I say to the chief risk mitigation strategist, but no, hold on. Now I know something different. I've learned something different about myself. I'm able to do this, this, and this, and this. And the chief risk mitigation strategist says, no. Please, I beg you. Let's not do this. And you could have that conversation with a chief risk mitigation strategist because you know they're just there to protect you. It is
Mm.
not an imposter. No part of your body is an imposter. That's where you start repairing.
Oof.
That's where you start really recognizing on that personal level your sovereignty, your own autonomy, just by the words that you use, just a different word. And so you want to talk about changing systems. Well, you can't change systems if you can't change yourself. You want to walk into space and people notice that you're a sovereign leader. But when you look in the mirror at your own self, you don't recognize that version. That's impossible. So let's start with reframing, which is a cognitive tool, reframing how we see, how we talk to, how we envision ourselves. And then we could talk about how the society changes. And that is not to let society off the hook, because I could hear some sisters going, Celina, sis, please. Sis, please. Let's not let the society off the hook. But I'm saying, what I'm actually saying is the one thing that we can control is how we talk to ourselves. And even those little things like imposter syndrome and doubt and those kinds of words that have negative connotations, reframe them in a way that says, this is what my body, my nervous system is protecting. How can I soften a little bit? How can I let some things go and create space for becoming?
Mm. That is, I love that, and I remember, when this whole imposter syndrome, I know for me it never really like sank in as like I have to say that's me. It was this recognition of where it's not us being defective, it's us operating in a system again that wasn't made for us to succeed in. And so when we
Right.
see, and so I love this reframe of, and hopefully I remember this chief risk mitigation strategist.
Yes.
Just saying it, I felt my spine straighten a little bit. I was like, yes,
Yes.
let me consult my inner and I'll get
There
back
you
to you.
go.
And
Let's
then,
consult the chief. Let's
yes,
consult. Yes.
fabulous. I love that. And I will be reflecting on that for a while. That was just so on point.
But you know what? When we talk about reframing, our prefrontal cortex, when I just want to just give a little bit of context here, because when we talk about doubt and imposter syndrome, we start going into a rumination process. That is part of our brain called the default mode network, where we tell ourselves these stories, right? We can't continue to tell ourselves these stories. We have to switch into our prefrontal cortex that allows for us to think and clear and set goals. And when we do that, when we talk to our chief risk mitigation strategist, that's the part of our brain we're going into. That's where we're starting to do the reframe. It's
Oh,
actually a cognitive tool.
I love it. Again, for someone who doesn't know a lot about the brain, just being able to understand, again, coming back to like the feeling I'm sitting in is we're not defective. And there are ways we can work with this genius part of our body called a brain. And so so I'm lighting up all over just thinking about what
We
you
are
are.
not broken. We are not lost. We are
Yeah.
right here.
Exactly. And lean on the words of Resma Menakem because I kind of learned from him that whole we're not defective systems, communities are not defective, it's systems. And so kind
Yeah.
of, to those viewers who were like, wait, it can't just, yes, the system's there, but we have power. We're not power.
Agency. Yeah.
Yes, we have agency. And that's what I love just about what you offered there.
Yeah.
So I know you're doing your PhD, and you use storytelling and phenomenology, and I'm really proud that I've said that word relatively well both times. You study Black women's transitions. Why was it important to challenge traditional academic ways of knowing on this topic?
Ooh, because we're always excluded. You look at the literature in neuroscience and using traditional tools like an fMRI or a transmedial cranial imaging. You look at those data and you're not seeing a lot of Black women, you're not seeing a lot of women of color, you're not seeing that. And so when we study, for example, dissonance or decision making, you're going into an fMRI and you're clicking, you're doing some game that clicks and says, this is dissonance. Choose a black bag versus a red bag. That's not how life works. When we're choosing in complex, toxic environments, we're often in a state of dissonance for years. Like when we decide we want to leave a toxic workspace or a toxic relationship or a toxic environment. We are doing that for years sometimes. That you can't just click through in an MRI. That story, therefore, the phenomenology, that lived experience of that is so important because it allows us to say, how does chronic dissonance show up in the brain? How does these states of chronic harm impact the brain? How do these states of chronic, disillusion impact how we live, how we exist, how we love, how we have joy, how we have sadness, how we do all of these things? These stories matter. And I know the power that I have to say, no, I'm not just going to use a traditional research paradigm in neuroscience. I'm going to challenge neuroscience itself and do something different. And when you have the power to be able to change a system through your own understanding of who you are and who you want to become, that's where you start to make change happen. So it goes back to that first question around systems. You
Absolutely.
see, you have to understand yourself in order to then be able to understand how to change a system.
For sure. And even that choice is sometimes an illusion. To
Yeah,
me, it's the absence of choice sometimes that sees us making the choice to leave a toxic situation.
yeah,
We might love the job, we might love the person, but we're like, no, my boundaries are being transgressed left, right, and center, and I don't have any other choice because my voice doesn't seem to change,
right.
those pieces. So I really appreciate the importance of amplifying and expanding, the bodies that are being, considered in
Yeah.
these kind of interventions. It makes me think about the research around perimenopause, about menopause, around that, right? And that's maybe, I think we're going to get there. Do we
Do we
go
have
there?
enough time to get into perimenopause in the brain right now? That's a
Right.
whole series.
That's true. That's true. Maybe that might be a part two, should we want to go there. Um, And so you've reframed, this is another piece. I mean, it kind of ties into what we just mentioned around menopause, but you've reframed what some call rage as clarity. What truths become easier to name when the pressure to be, I'm going to say, nice dissolves?
Right. So perimenopause is a great segue into this because, of course, the estrogen levels drop, and estrogen is determined as the nice hormone. And I was going through perimenopause, still going through, and wondering like I wasn't gaining weight, I wasn't having the hot flashes, but the rage. And I think, again, we think of rage and we think of it as such a bad thing. Oh my God, I feel so horrible. I feel so guilty. I feel so shameful about how I'm going through this transition. But when you understand, again, that your brain goes completely offline during perimenopause, it's reconfiguring itself, but it's not getting any more efficient. So you're in this state of rage, and it's because the nice hormone is saying, you know what, honey, we are not doing this anymore. We are not playing nice in the sandbox. We are going to say what we say. We're going to mean what we mean. And who likes it, who doesn't, bye. And it's actually not rage. We've suppressed so much stuff. We have taken so much in that doesn't even belong to us. And then finally, this hormone is just gone. And it's like it takes the spring off, like the lid comes off, and this thing comes popping out. And you're like, oh my God, what is this? What happened to me? Something's wrong with me. No, no, no. Something's not wrong with you. You're releasing all the stuff that you should have let go of years and years and years and years ago. And now it's just coming out. And you know what? You're actually showing up as you for the first time in your life. I feel like I'm going to cry. For the
Oof.
first time in your life, you're actually becoming. You're becoming. You're becoming who you are. You're becoming who you were meant to be. And it required this removal of this mask, this removal of this perfect image to do that. And so I give thanks for perimenopause. Bring it on. Bring the hot flashes. Bring the rage. Bring the weight gain. Bring all the like so my little belly becomes soft and cushy and I love it. Bring it. Bring it. Give it to me.
Love it. And with you, I had a wave of goosebumps and was with you around the awakening. It's I'm in my words, I'm thinking about it almost as a rebirth,
Yes.
because I'm in the
Yes.
same season as you,
Well,
and felt.
this is what I call my grace period. It's the last period I'm going to have, and I call it the grace period, where I give myself grace,
Whew.
where I give myself permission to just be Celina.
Hmm. To be all that is Celina. I mean,
Yes.
this is, I'm talking to you as a neuroscientist now.
Yeah.
Next time I might, what is it? It's like there's no limit, you know.
No, the
Uh,
evolution of
yes, yes, and I like to say we have no more F's left to give as well.
word.
That's the truth.
Word. I
Um,
was trying not to swear because everybody knows I can, but none left to give.
I can't remember if I've actually sworn on this show, but I swear in my life. But if I have, it's okay. I'm sure Tina will forgive me. Um, Okay, so and I also want to I definitely want to talk about your book quickly too before we end, but maybe one more question I'd like to go to. If in your opinion, again thinking about your journey, thinking about what you're researching, the absence of research around this, if more Black women were supported to choose sovereignty earlier, what
Mm,
do you believe would shift in our workplaces, our communities, our movements?
everything, everything. And it's not just Black women. I mean, Black women tend to, we're seeing it now, the largest growing demographic of entrepreneurs, Black women, hundreds of thousands of Black women fired from their jobs in America over the last few months, like hundreds of thousands. So, I mean, the focus is Black women, but when you create space, when you give freedom for that full sovereign self to show up, that's where our imagination comes into play. That's where our gift of spirit comes into play. That's where we are giving ourselves permission to say my intuition, my spiritual understanding, my different ways of knowing that are not in a book, but are in my body. My embodied cognition is valid and real, and I can bring all of that into a space. And all it does is it increases, I'm going to sound very capitalist, but this is what it does. It increases your return on investment, it increases your bottom line, it makes your services better, it makes your policies better. It is an asset to any organization that you are within, including the home. So when we talk about sovereignty and not holding people down, not holding and making them leave parts of themselves, that's what it does. And increase it. It actually has been studied. It increases your return on investment by about 20%. Who doesn't have time to get 20% more money? And that's just
Absolutely.
facts.
Yes, yeah, I love that. And as I'll say, as a brown-bodied woman, I come from a community, a South Asian community where there is a lot of, I'm going to say, anti-Black racism.
Mm,
For me, it feels really important to speak specifically about this because I know that when the world um, is a space where a Black woman can achieve her sovereignty, is sovereign,
yeah,
is at choice, has agency. I know that means I will have more choice, I will have
100%.
more agency, and so um,
100%.
not to say that there isn't a need for this type of research across non-dominant culture, but I appreciate how important it is to keep supporting and driving this type of narrative and research as well. And so appreciate your response there and just that recognition of, yeah, very simply, everything,
Everything.
everything. I wanted to read, so viewers may or may not know about Celina's book, Can You Hear Me Now, which came out in 2021. I wanted to read a piece, if it's okay.
Yes.
And I wanted to invite you to, these are your words that you wrote. So the part I'm reading is um, a love letter to Black women that you wrote in, let's see, I
You
feel
make
like
me
I'm saying this
cry.
20, right? It was around the same time, I guess I want to say back in 2016, 2018. Maybe I don't
Yeah.
have the exact date, but I would like to invite you to imagine that you're reading these words. It's being written for you because I'm sure it is you as well. And
Yeah.
so not that I'm here to make some tears happen, but that's welcome. But I would love for you to speak to how it feels in this moment because it is a few years ago now. And
Yeah.
um, so I'll read a part of it. And so it goes, My sisters, in the face of all this, you rise and I see you. I see your brilliance and courage and unconditional love. I see you with your black velvet, dark chocolate, Jamocha almond, caramel latte with a sprinkle of freckle, and all shades of skin in between. When it is kissed by the light, it makes your melanin shine brighter than the sun. Hashtag I see you. I see you when you walk into a room and the air has no choice but to gravitate to you as you suck the oxygen out of the space. Hashtag I see you. I see you with your curves and shape, the ones that have a price tag now, but yours have been divinely bestowed, rightfully placed, blessed and cursed at the same time. Hashtag I see you. I see you saying that everything is going to be all right. I see you supporting me, even in our distance. I see you praying for me and keeping me in your thoughts. I see you. I thank you. I love you.
Oh my God. I remember writing that. If that was written to me right now, I'd probably burst into tears because I feel like even at this moment, we need to see each other. Like just to notice and see that we're hurting, but at the same time, there's joy, but at the same time, there's promise in all of us.
Mm.
To know that, just seeing someone, we talk about listening to people, but just seeing them, to look at them and say, I see you. I see you beyond your words. I see you beyond the I'm okay. I see you beyond the smile that is a facade. I see you beyond the mask. Can we do that for each other? Can your viewers do that to the person sitting beside them, to the person that is their friend, to the person that they walk by every day and don't notice? Can we do that for each other? Can we show up for each other in a world that our humanity is slipping? Can we do that and reconnect? Can we do that and restore our collective humanity? Let's see each other.
Mm. I love that. And just thank you for receiving that with grace. The intention wasn't any tears. As I said, they're always welcome, but really appreciated the love. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've appreciated about you as a leader. And as I've gotten to know you, I have felt your love and your care through, everything that you've put into the world. And through your neuroscientist title, I'm going to see what that looks like in expression. And so thank you so much, Celina. This totally whipped by. I thank you so much for coming on the show
Oh,
today.
thank you. Thank you and your viewers. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it.
You're welcome. And so, to viewers, I really want to thank you for continuing to support Mending Chasms and keep your suggestions for guests coming and keep watching. And until next time, keep building bridges and community.